what's next for transportation energy. On today's episode, a conversation with John Eichberger, Transportation Energy Institute's Executive Director, and Jeff Hovey, TEI's Vice President, about the viability of e-fuels for U.S. transportation.
We've got a webinar coming up here August 13th to look at the viability of e-fuels for U.S. transportation. In November of last year, we released a paper on this, about 150-page, 160-page analysis. And we're going to be doing this webinar where we can present the findings of that, kind of resurrect it a little bit. We're going to be partnering with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory to get their perspectives on it. But I think it's interesting. I started diving into the study again a few days ago, building the slides for the webinar, and I forgot after 9 months, 10 months, how rich this study is with insight and detail. I mean, just the questions alone that we took a look at, we wanted to understand what are e-fuels, how are they produced? We answered that. We answered how can they be used in the transportation system? We answered how do they affect greenhouse gas emissions and other environmental concerns such as resource consumption allocation? What's the production capacity in the United States and globally? What are the costs associated with e-fuels? And how does policy intersect? I mean, it is an unbelievable paper. I've had some people asking, why'd you guys do an e-fuel study? Well, here's the bottom line. I mean, we did a couple studies that said, e-fuels might be a fuel of the future. Okay, let's go find out if that's true. We know it's in its infancy of technology, and we really wanted to better understand, is this going to be a viable player for transportation energy in the coming years? I think the answer was maybe, but it really depends on a variety of factors. So, I mean, I'm excited about the webinar. I'm excited about the report, and I've always been a fan of technology, even though it does seem to be a little far out there.
Yeah, in my mind, it's always been the unicorn of fuels, right?
Yeah.
You got a fuel where you're capturing carbon, a greenhouse gas, and you're combining it optimally with renewable electricity and synthesizing it to create a liquid drop-in fuel. Does not have to be blended, does not need a new drivetrain. Engines don't have to be modified. And the net emissions on this are zero. In that scenario, right? Renewable electricity, capturing carbon. In the early days, it might not just be renewable electricity. We might have to do, nat gas turbine, electricity, whatever, but it's still better. I mean, on a carbon intensity scale, it's still better. So we got all these different colors that we can go by, just like on CNG. But it is going to be a huge competition for that renewable electricity. That's going to be it. We're already seeing the costs come down on some of the big ticket items that go into this technology. But we definitely need more and more renewable electricity. I think that's ultimately what I got from the study. There's so much competition in that space, from data centers to electric vehicles to any industry that's trying to electrify. And one
of the things the study highlighted is there's 53 planned projects between the United States and Europe. 53. Now, will they all get off the ground? No, they won't all get off the ground, but there's been a lot of interest in it. On the capacity side, we're looking at potentially 27.5 billion gallons of e-fuel product by 2040 based upon current projections of production. But to your point, Jeff, the availability of renewable electricity is essential now. In the United States, we have a ton of potential. The question is, are we going to realize that potential? And are we able to generate it where the wind blows, where the sun shines, and deliver it to an interconnected grid so that it can be used? Now, one of the things about e-fuel is that they're trying to produce or build the facilities where the renewable electricity is available. That's really important. Carbon dioxide. We produce a ton of carbon dioxide through industrial processing in the United States that we can capture and dedicate it. So in terms of the raw availability of renewable electricity and carbon dioxide, we've got it. And we can leverage it. The question is, will we? And to your point, the competition for it is fierce. But one of the biggest challenges right now, it's 2.5 to 4 times more expensive than a fossil fuel. It can replace gasoline, diesel fuel, and jet fuel. It's a drop-in product. but the production cost is so high. And again, we're at the infancy, so hopefully those costs will come down. But it's one of those fuels that, to your point, it's a unicorn fuel. It's that fuel around the corner. The question is, how big is the corner? I'm still waiting to turn the corner on cellulosic ethanol viability. And I've been waiting for 25 years for that one. So we'll see. Hopefully this corner is not 25 years round.
Yeah, and it's all really based upon what consumer is willing to pay that premium, right? Everyday consumer driving their vehicles, they're not going to pay that type of premium on a fuel. The airlines, where they can, increase fees a little bit or cover costs, they've got more flexibility in covering those costs. Yeah. Or maybe it's a different industry that we haven't even talked about yet that's willing to pay that much premium, for the technology. But I think as global pressures grow for corporations to, reduce their emissions, this has got to be a solution that's in the realms of possibility, right? They have to be able to look at this to say, okay, where are we, to your point, located to renewable fuel? Maybe it's nuclear, maybe it's some other low carbon energy, along with a carbon capture system or another industry that's capturing it, or it's direct air capture, but this has to be on the table. But I agree. I mean, I think even the report says, we're looking at 10 years out, and that's if government policy support has significant support of the technology through incentives. Yeah. So,
but it's one of those things that we at TEI we try to do. We try to look down the road. What other options are there? I always remind people, 20 years ago, nobody thought electric vehicles would be where they are today. 20 years from now, what will be the great new shiny exciting thing? Maybe it's e-fuels, maybe it's not. But I think it's worth looking at, because even in a market where electrification is really successful, we're dealing with 1.5 billion vehicles on the road that run on liquid fuel. Yeah. This is a liquid fuel that can help reduce the emissions from that technology, those vehicles. So August 13th, webinar with NREL, going to be a good conversation. We'll record it, put it out there for everybody to see on demand. But it's a topic we're going to continue coming back to. And it's an example of how we are trying to figure out, where should we be paying attention? What might be next, and what might be a contributor to reducing emissions in the most cost-effective way possible for consumers.
What's Next for Transportation Energy is a production of the Transportation Energy Institute. Find out more about us at transportationenergy.org.